So a couple of days ago, Kevin O'Connell went on Score North, and Mackie and Judd asked some questions, and this is my reaction to that interview. Welcome to Minnesota Sports Talk. I'm your host, Dave. You can follow me on Twitter at SkullWorld, Facebook SkullWorld, and TikTok SkullWorld. Now, please enter my contest that I have the description below. And if you subscribe, like, and comment, you'll be entered into that. But again, read the description below for more details. Also, you'll find a link to the Score North interview that I'm going to be discussing. So let's talk about it. So KOC goes on Score North, and I only started watching them when I started to get into YouTube and starting to do Vikings content maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I started a podcast before I did a YouTube channel, and I started watching Mackie and Judd, and it was just nonstop Kirk hate, pushing for him to get traded. It was nonstop. But the reason why I would listen to him is because they brought on people that had inside information and they had contacts. So you got a lot of good info, but you had to sift through 30 minutes of nonstop. This is why we hate Kirk Cousins. Totally one-sided. Here are the stats to back it up. Oh, these stats don't matter because he's just padding stats. He's a dink and dunk passer, doesn't stand in the pocket. And then this interview happened. And I thought I'd give them credit. I thought they wouldn't bring any heat towards Kirk Cousins. They have Kevin O'Connell in here, and that, they're not going to want to ruffle the feathers of the head coach. I was wrong. They brought some tough questions for KOC, and they showed their animosity towards Kirk Cousins to the head coach and probably good friend. Keep in mind, he's got an autographed jersey from Washington in his home of Kirk Cousins. They're great friends. So that is, and I had mentioned on my live show on Purple Pocket Podcast called Skull Live that I didn't think they were going to do it, and they did. And I believe that Kevin O'Connell should be running for some sort of office because he is that politically savvy enough to get out of that situation and have them nodding their heads going, oh, okay, yeah. So that's what it was like. So here's a couple thoughts. Judd, this is the big one. Judd says, I know you don't like picks. I know you don't like interceptions, but you had Matt Stafford, and he took chances downfield, and he was known for picks. And what is he going to be like? And sure enough, you go to the Super Bowl, whatever, and he's really successful down the field. And Kevin O'Connell goes, I would not be here today as the Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not verbatim here, but if it wasn't for Matthew Stafford making plays downfield. He just said that about Matthew Stafford. Judd asked him about Kirk Cousins. He goes on to say that in the month of November, we did not win a football game. He's talking about the Rams. And the dumbfounded look on all three guys in Score North had no idea that they did this. And this is what and I'm going to talk about what he said in a little bit, but I said this on my live show. As Viking fans, we watch a game and we see all the bad things that he does. We see the good things, but we also see all the bad things our team do. And a lot of times, if it's offensive things are going wrong, we're going to blame one person, and that is, Kevin O'Connell. Now, I do see, God, what a terrible play call, whatever. But when we're done with that game, and let's say we've lost, or we've won, or whatever, or maybe the quarterback played bad that game, we will then go watch the highlights of the day, where we're seeing guys throw for touchdowns, and every play is a touchdown, right? So we're seeing all these miraculous plays by all these players, and we're not seeing what they did bad, unless it's like a turnover that cost the game or whatever. Or some miraculous play that went against them. But we're not seeing all the bad things, all the minutia of that game. But we see everything our team does. So a lot of cases, us as Viking fans are harder on our team than other people, other fans watching the game. And that's why a Kirk Cousins makes the top 100 in the NFL 3 years in a row as a Viking on the NFL Network, or two times. And then he did it at Washington too. But we don't see that. We see all the bad things that he does. And that's what SKORnorth does. They were flabbergasted that Matthew Stafford, their new hero, someone who's greater than Kirk Cousins, who's got the it factor, who's got he's not risk averse like Kirk Cousins, and he's throwing the ball downfield, and there's a happy trade-off between throwing a pick and then making a play on other things. So Judd part of his question, and it was a quadruple pronged question. He just kept going on saying, now, do you tell Kirk Cousins that, hey, do it this way, make this play, it's gonna, it might be risky, but it's gonna be better more often than not? And so KOC answers with this: we didn't win a game in November, and it had to do with turnovers and how our quarterback was playing. And then he says, we looked inside, as a team, and what we could do better, and to mitigate those turnovers that were costing us games. And the three guys in SKORnorth, even after KOC left, were talking about, I didn't know that. I didn't know they lost. They didn't win a game for 32 days. That's what KOC did. They didn't win a game for 302 days, but they were able to recoup from that, go on to win a Super Bowl because of the community, what their players were like, the quality of their camaraderie. I'm not even going to say that word, but I'm looking for a specific word that he said. But they had a team that could look in and say, hey, we need to change this. We're going to be better. We didn't get down on ourselves. We didn't give up. They continued on, but he made it a point to say, yeah, we were losing because of turnovers. To me, I was reading a little further into that. Yeah, you don't win with turnovers. He also said that the Minnesota Vikings were a positive turnover team. Like, it was one of the good things about the Vikings last year is that we turned the ball over less than our opponents. And you would think we would win that, but our defense was like a traffic cone in the fourth quarter and into halves. He also said that the most important part of the game is the 8 minutes in the middle of the game, how you end the half and how you start the second half. Does it sound familiar? That was where we were the worst, was at the end of half and at the end of the games. And we didn't start off the second half very well either. But the two places we were really bad at was the last 4 minutes of each half. So he made it a point to say that, hey, we're not gonna turn the ball over, guys. I don't care what you guys in the media think. It is not a good thing to turn the ball over. Now, he also says that as a team offensively, we are going to put our best on their best. We're going to take our best play, get them the best position, and we're going to get our best players the ball. And that brings me back to 2009 in 1998, where we threw the ball and go catch it. Brett Favre made Sidney Rice a household name for one season. And Randall Cunningham just threw the ball and had Randy Moss go invent the term moss, that you got mossed. And and I brought this up in the last show, there is not a documentary, but, it could be considered a documentary, where there's Brian Billick was saying, no, yes, every time Cunningham would throw the ball down the field, because he didn't want, that to, he thought it was going to get turned over. But we had Randy Moss. He jumped up and got it. And Cunningham, for that one season, would do that. The next season, he didn't start out so well. And he benched himself, from what I hear. Now, there's people teammates that said that or coaches, or I think it was a teammate or coach that said he came and benched himself. Oh, you know what? It was Judd, actually. He said that Ron, in one of his YouTube videos, said that he heard from a player or a coach that Randall Cunningham benched himself in 99. That got us Jeff George. But that's the kind of mentality our coach has right now, is, hey, we're going to throw the ball and put our players in the best positions. And he also said, we're going to make it simple for Kirk Cousins. Hey, you don't need to read like 7 progressions. You just need to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson over here, and he will make that play. And that's how, and that's what's gonna make the Vikings that much more successful. He also probably realizes that, and he brought up, not being pressured all the time will help, right? Well, if you go look, the Vikings were like the most pressured team, or the quarterback was the most pressured quarterback in the league last year, top 4 at least, but I think he's number 1. I don't have it in front of me, but he was also like top 4 least sacked. And I know it wasn't number 1, but he was tied for, like, in a group of, to make him a top 4. And so that don't make sense for a guy that's not mobile. One of the things Kevin O'Connell said about Kirk Cousins is he always has his eyes downfield. Christian Ponder is a perfect example of a guy who had talent, was mobile, probably more mobile than Kirk Cousins, but he got pressured, his eyes went down. Kirk Cousins doesn't. He stands in the play. There's a famous play of him in that tie game against Packers in 2018, where he just took a hit and just cut it right between 2 defenders to Adam Thielen falling down at the goal line. This guy takes hits. He makes pressured throws. We see this all the time, but because of the losses, because of the bad, the occasional bad play throughout the game, all we see is that badness. And I don't blame us for that. I was Kirk Cousins hater the second half of 2018. I thought he didn't throw the ball away, and he was trying too hard towards the end of the season. 2019, he had a great year, I thought. He struggled a little bit when Thielen wasn't in. And then 2020, the first 2 games of the season, 3 games probably, he was awful. But his BC Johnson was his number 2 receiver, and we had Justin Jefferson on the sideline, and we looked terrible in preseason, and it showed up in the regular season. We have new coaches, folks, a new philosophy. We're not going to be as predictable. We're going to put our best players out there, and that's what I got out of the interview that's down below in the description. This is Minnesota Sports Talk. I'm your host, David. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok, Skull World. Make sure you hit subscribe, click like, and leave a comment. That will enter you in my contest. The description's below. I want to give away $100 on the game day against the Packers. That's all, folks. See you next time. Skol Vikings.